Jamaica will say pain and pain for the PNP. One of them good, because we saw that they were trying something with the Gleaner, the whole whore of North Street, that put out in their paper attacking the rural school bus system in relation to how these buses were tripped to Jamaica. The thing is, Mr. Daryl Vas, the super minister, has handed them the receipt, and it turns out they are lying.
And ever since, I keep repeating something that the TikToker says because I find it funny.
I know Candy. Just
that's the very one.
Pain.
That's not the saying I keep repeating, but the saying that I learned last week seems to point to something dramatic and problematic. That's when the saying is used. The TikToker says, "Me dear, worries in the dance, worries tonight." Now, on the weekend, Georgian listeners, my viewers, based on the initial reactions, some thought they had something tangible for the first time on the rural school bus program that would indicate there's worries in the dance. To draw from something you said yesterday, George, this for some was supposed to be the aha moment. We got you now. Finally something that discredits the whole effort on this program. But the preliminary aha moment would be short-lived, as the Minister of Transport again came forward with receipts. The first aha was supposed to be the bus supplier not being a certified dealer of used and new vehicles. A piece of information that was interpreted by some to mean that somehow the process was not above board. The oxygen being given to that was quickly deflated. This after the explanation that the supplying company didn't need that dealer certification, as the school buses were being brought into the country, into Jamaica, and going straight into the custody of the Ministry of Transport for a state-led program. These aren't units that the supplier was sourcing to take custody of and place in a mart or stockpile for sale in Jamaica. Further, the import license was furnished to show that the Ministry of Transport was granted an import license. The Ministry of Transport is the importer. And for those who are watching on our YouTube channel, Nationwide 90 FM Live, those over in Radio Land, I invite you to come on over, because some of you may not be folks who are on Twitter, and that's where I see it circulating the most, the import license. You can hop on over and see that import license. The one we have up now is the invoice, but the one I want to show, Michelle, is the import license. So you can hop on over to our YouTube channel and see the import license. My producer, Michelle, is helping me out this morning. There we go. The company El Hydro is the supplier and was authorized to facilitate the importation of the buses because it is the exclusive agent in Jamaica and the wider Caribbean for the manufacture of the bus model being used in the school bus program. The company was importantly subjected to the public procurement process after it had submitted its unsolicited proposal. Then persons went, but, these are decommissioned buses, and aha, the buses didn't have any pre-shipment inspection certificates, as this was waived. So decommissioned suggests the units are unusable. This is not the fact. The facts are the units are about 10 years old, with a mileage of about 60 to 100,000 and carrying an overall mileage capacity of 500,000 on the engine and transmission, and will not require any major overhaul until the next 10 to 15 years. These are older used buses that were inspected by the Department of Transport in the United States for 2025 and passed, importantly, as fit and proper. And again, Michelle is showing you those fit and proper, or one of the fit and proper certificates on one of the buses, to give you an example of what was placed on them after that specialized inspection carried out by the Department of Transport in the US. Then the Jamaica Urban Transit Company, or people here, the JUTC, with its engineers, traveled to the US and carried out its own inspections without registering any abnormal findings. That's layer 2. And then the third layer of inspection is being provided by the Island Traffic Authority that is mandated to test vehicles to ensure fitness, roadworthiness, and general compliance with standards of safety. And here as well, if we could play this clip, Michelle, the Transport Minister explaining the reason for the Trade Board offering an inspection waiver for the buses.
The reason for the waiver of the Trade Board is that Trade Board has appointed a private outfit overseas that does use vehicles. All of the vehicles coming from Japan and those places, they are not sanctioned by the Department of Transport in relation to school buses, and there is a completely inferior inspection as it relates to buses. They inspect used motor vehicles across the board, and we import maybe 1,000, 2,000 a month. So that's what they do, and therefore it would have been a waste of taxpayers' money because the report that they would generate would not come to the criteria that is required by the Department of Transport, as they are not certified in relation to school buses. So again, I tick all the boxes.
After the information provided resulted in the arguments against the program losing steam, finally, some rallied back to the $1.4 billion figure. And the inaccuracies was plastered on socials that the 110 buses cost $1.4 billion. I mean, George, just several hours ago on a story on our Instagram page, I was seeing the same thing in the comment section. And this blind ignorance, deliberate ignorance, or attempt to mislead others continues to be why we here, George, at Nationwide on NTM, we get up every morning at 4 to come and sit here, because a part of our job, an important part of our job, is to accurately inform, to empower people with information, correct information. The 1.4 billion covers first, of course, the purchase of the buses. And this is where, Michelle, you show that invoice now for the first 26 buses that we know are here in country. You'll see that each of the units, perhaps you'll have to zoom it up a little later on, but each of the units cost between $10,000 and $20,000. There we go. I have a very tech savvy producer zooming it up for you guys this morning. So you'll see that each of the units cost between $10,000 and $20,000. The first batch of 26 came up to just over $424,000 or 68 million GMD if you're going by the foreign exchange figures. Now, even if the 110 units, George, each cost $20,000, so I'm going on the higher end of the cost spectrum there. Even if the 110 units each cost $20,000, as I said, which is the highest figure represented for some of the units here on this invoice, you'd still not get $1.4 billion. That'll give you just over 350 million. Buses aside, my friends, the rest of this 1.4 billion funding covers inland freight, sea freight, duties, parts for the buses for not a month, 2 months, or 3 months, or for a quarter, a whole year. And then we have a 3-year maintenance contract that is covered in this 1.4 billion. Cameras for all 110 buses. And then there's just 1 or 2 or 3 cameras, each bus has 5 cameras. The installation of a cashless system for fare collection. And importantly, the refurbishing of the buses. Because up to last evening, people are still asking about the doors on the buses. I cannot believe this. People are still asking or making this big deal about the doors on the buses, after it has been said so many times. That's a part of the refurbishing and a part of the 1.4 billion. To where I started, to my mind, there's no worries in the dance on this one. Not at this time. I, however, think we're at a point where some people are just opposing for opposing's sake and being unreasonable, even in the face of evidence. Because I wouldn't be surprised if after all of this, in this What's on My Mind segment, with the evidence right there, an hour from now or so, you'll have people who come back, pushing back again. So, being unreasonable, opposing for...
It is a sad day in Jamaica and a sad day for the Gleaner, because the Gleaner has literally lost its credibility in Jamaica. Yes, the PNP and the Mark Golding, Peter Bunting, Dayton Campbell, with their false information, has literally, subliminally destroyed the Gleaner that we used to read and take as credible news. Now it's just propaganda. Right now, the Gleaner is more propagated than even the PNP bloggers them. Period. So people not really take the Gleaner serious right now. In fact, this blunder in relation to the rural school bus system that Daryl Vas rubbish was the final nail in the coffin for the Gleaner. And trust me, my grandfather stopped buying the paper, and also my aunties, because they have realized you all are in the PNP pocket and you're trying so hard. In fact, the way on handle the whole rural school bus program is like sick my stomach disgusting. You see that the Gleaner, the paper that should be the national paper of Jamaica, is literally spreading the PNP propaganda, telling lies just to mud up the rural school bus system, because it is a game changer. The best thing that ever happened to the children, especially in the rural areas of Jamaica, ever since independence. Show man rumble, third term, loading and photo and fifth. Exactly.